in our technical difficulties. No one hates a technical difficulty more than a drag queen, I can assure you, but I hope that you were able to kind of get a feel for what I was trying to communicate with that video. If you'd like to see it, it is on YouTube. You can look up Black Benatar, Change Gonna Come, and you can get your life all by yourself without a virtual audience for you. I am so fortunate and blessed to be here today with you because I have a message. I don't know if you can tell by my performance, but that performance, the name of that song by the great Patti LaBelle is Change Gonna Come. It was done by it's been covered many, many times, but I believe that. I believe change is coming, change is gonna come, change been coming, and here we are together. And let's be a part of this change. So when I am not on stage, just giving my best life, looking full and glamorous, I am right here in California on the land of the Ohlone people, which is actually where Zoom, this whole platform, is stationed, and Facebook. So we are all coming to you virtually and live from the land of the Ohlone people here in California. For all of those folks who know who their indigenous peoples are, holla, say it out loud, say it out loud. And if you don't know, find out, be curious, get interested. So today, I am here to bring you, it is my 3-point plan to cultural allyship. It is called 12 Years an Ally. Let's talk about it. I have some images for you. We'll see if they show up for us. I posit that if you follow my 3-point plan, in approximately 12 years, you will have made an impact on yourself and those closest to you as we move towards a new world of allyship. All right. The first thing I want to kind of share with y'all is what are some of these important terms that we keep hearing? People keep bandying them about, things like cultural equity, diversity, inclusion. Let's talk about it. Cultural equity, it's a principle, it's a process, and it is an outcome. So what does that mean? If you want to create equity in our beautiful, beautiful country, then we need to have a process where people can experience equal outcomes, where difference does not inhibit your ability to succeed. Cultural equity, being a principle, a process, and an outcome, it is not fixed. It is something that we must interrogate actively, continually, to ensure that those among us who have the least are able to achieve the highest levels of success. It's something that's going to work for everybody. Now, that process needs inputs. So let's talk about some of those inputs. What might an input be for a culturally equitable system? Any guesses? I think I heard diversity, and you would be correct. But you know how everyone loves to talk about diversity, diversity this, diversity that. Let's talk about what it means, actually, right? Diversity, have you ever heard someone say, ooh, we have a very diverse candidate in our pool of potential new hires. A diverse candidate. It doesn't work. You may not have one single diversity. Diversity is literally all of the differences, all of our unique identities. It's all of us together in relationship with each other that creates diversity. It relies on our unique differences and us being in a collective state. Diversity is an important part of cultural equity because if you don't have diversity, you don't have anything to put into the cultural equity process. But you need something else to make it work. And that little something else is called inclusion. All right? Let's talk about inclusion. Again, we love to talk about inclusion, and we just think it means, sort of just welcoming everybody. Everyone come on, get in here. Well, welcome is nice. Welcome is wonderful. Welcome is the beginning. No, people being able to look and see in your space, organization, your home, that they are welcome, bar none, wonderful. But inclusion is the measure of active and intentional welcome, active and intentional engagement, right? You are constantly engaging the diversity of your community in the creation of programs, in the creation of outcomes, rules, processes, practices. You are including the very cultural differences of someone in the ability to make a collective whole, something where we all can find our different entry points to feel a sense of belonging. Because belonging is cultural, right? Okay, all right. So I did a little soft, I got you all caught up. Now we can go, and we can use these words appropriately. And I love it when you're just like, you can call someone in and you're like, that's a diverse candidate, honey. Yeah. Right? You can call them in, explain it. Now we've armed with some vocab. Let's move on to some things that really, really kind of impact our ability to operate as strong cultural allies. We all hear about privilege. Ooh, it just gets us all testy. But let's talk about privilege. What is privilege? I have an equation for you. Because I think we often get confused. Oh, privilege, that means you got this and I don't have that and da-da-da-da-da. But really, when we talk about a system, privilege is also a system, as exhibited here in this equation. Privilege equals societal and economic advantage and preference multiplied by rights. And here's the real stinker. It's with or without your consent. You don't get a choice. Right? And I think that's the part that no one ever really acknowledges, is that some folks, and we all have privilege. Okay, look at all of this privilege. This is called the privilege of fabulosity, people. Okay, and not everyone has it, and it's my job to be sensitive to those who maybe are lacking in the fabulosity. So, right, we want to make room for people. And privilege is one of those things where, oh, I have advantage, I have preference, and I have rights, and I don't even necessarily have to think of them because it's with or without my consent. But if there's privilege, there is a flip side. So what's the flip side of privilege? Did someone say oppression? Yeah, oppression. It is the flip side of privilege. Where there is privilege, there is oppression. Where there is light, there has to be dark, right? We this is how we understand our world. For equal one outcome, there is an equal and opposite reaction. We've heard that in science all the time. And privilege is that to oppression. So what is oppression? Well, let's math it out. Oppression equals societal and economic disadvantagement plus judgment multiplied by rights. So in the case of advantage, right, you in social and economic advantage, those rights, those become amplified, right? They kind of take you further and faster. In terms of privilege, that disadvantage and judgment, when it's multiplied by rights, it adds. It's about expanding, multiplying that disadvantage and judgment. And guess what? Here we are again, with or without your consent, right? This is why consent's such a big deal, and I think we have to honor that some of our worst qualities as humans are with or without our consent, right? So I love to start there because we have power. Once we understand what our privileges are, we can start to understand them as superpowers. Where there is privilege, there is access, right? So let's look at it. Privilege versus oppression. Where there is representation, there must be invisibility. We have poverty, preventative health, emergency health. Opportunity negotiation versus barrier navigation, right? Like, Oh, where will I go to school? Where will I go? Which Ivy League shall I go to? I could go to the one where my dad went, or I could go to the one where my mom went. We both get kind of like extra opportunities to get in there, versus someone who's like, how will I get to school? How will I, oh, my school is, I don't have a car. It's miles away. It starts very early in the morning. I have to get my kid to school. Barrier navigation. How do I get around these barriers to get to these different things? It's just so like, I think you can start to use your privilege to start to identify where oppression might live. And so these are our tools. These are our lenses that we are developing to become sharper, stronger, and better agents for change. See what I did there? Okay. So let's look at this. Let's look at this diagram here. So the reason I like this is because it really illustrates this whole with or without your consent. Privilege works by invisibilizing itself to the recipient. So now, here we are. We have this gentleman. Oh, he's looking. He's really regarding this young woman on the other side. Really looking right in her eyes. You know. But in that direct engagement, right in the eyes, what is he missing? What's the matter? It's the same distance. So probably checked out the distance, knew they were in a fair race. Now is locked eyes, and is not looking at the path ahead of her. Is not looking to see, oh, where the barbed wire is, where the pitfalls, where the challenges are in terms of this person getting to that finish line. But they are there, seeing them, right? So we can often, we are present, but we're not paying enough attention. We don't have our lenses honed so that we can actually identify where barriers exist for others, right? This is a key component of cultural allyship. And so it's not about feeling bad, right? This is about becoming aware and being able to use that awareness to affect positive change in your environment. If we can't see, we can't know. If we can't know, we can't do better. So let's talk about cultural allyship. Oh, I love cultural allyship. It's like this wonderful way where you can have really very limited experience with someone, but you have the desire and the intention to create a beloved community. Cultural allyship equals engaged learning, action and behavior, plus action and behavior, multiplied by responsibility. So you are wanting to learn about different people, different places. You're going to want to identify what actions and behaviors that you might need to shift or adopt in order to provide a very clear and understood welcome. And then you're going to take that engaged learning and that action and behavior, and you're going to multiply it by that responsibility to see a more equitable world, right? In order for us to get to this place of cultural equity, we have to have skin in the game. That means that both you and I have to know why cultural equity, why an anti-racist community, why a lack of bias will bring us greater riches and wealth, right? And I'm not talking about financial wealth. I'm talking about the most important wealth, the wealth of a loved, secure, and stable community, right? So I believe so much in this responsibility. So let's talk about what cultural allyship can look like, because I feel like, you know, we get into like tricky areas, like we need some, you know, some definitions that we need to understand. And I want to tell y'all a story. So, you know, I would say in some communities, you know, I am considered an ally. It's true. Like in the beige community, right? So, you know the beige community? Everybody knows the beige community? You know, taupe wearers. Like muted khakis, you know. Yeah, you got me. Oatmeal, you know. I have beige friends, very beige friends. It's always, maybe olive. They get wild, throwing a little olive in there. They're extremely beige, but they are some of my best friends. And that's real. I love them. Not everybody can just wake up and put on jewels and sequins and just, go about their day. So I don't expect that from all of my friends. So my beige friends, we are tight, and we don't expect each other to conform. But when I am in beige spaces, right, I want to be sensitive. I want to be aware. I try not to take up space, right? I pay attention to what beige folks are doing. I take cues to how beige folks are interacting in this space. I don't judge people who speak in a beige vernacular, and I am careful not to appropriate beige vernacular, okay? So when I'm welcomed into a beige space, I like to step back and recognize that space is not for me, right? Like the Olive Garden, right? When I'm at the Olive Garden, I'm hanging out with my friends, what am I doing? I am making sure there is breadsticks on the table. I'm making sure that salad is refilled. I'm looking for ways to support, in a quiet, backseat way, to support my beige friends, right? So it's a privilege for me to be accepted into beige spaces, just as it's a privilege to be this fabulous. And so I want to carry the responsibility of all this fabulosity and not take up space in a place where it's so clearly about my beige friends. So I just hope that I think we all know, sort of beige folks or other types of folks where you want to make an effort to make them feel comfortable and included. Thank you. It's a little story time for you. But I feel like there's a little bit, we can dive a little bit deeper here. Now, okay, I know you probably think I have this fabulous life where I'm just like traveling around and meeting with famous people, and you'd be right. You'd absolutely be right. I was at an event, now this is pre-COVID obviously, I was at an event and I saw Shonda Rhimes, and I'm like, Shonda, oh my God, you look fabulous, how do you like my sweater, etc. And Shonda was like, I'm so glad, Black Benatar, that you're here, because I'm having some trouble with this new script that we're working on. I have been brought in by Pixar to do the next Toy Story 5. And there are some real flaws with this new show, Woody's New Roommate. And I'm like, girl, I got you. I do equity and inclusion work. I am your girl for consulting. Let's do this. So I got the script and I started reading Woody's New Roommate. It was starring Woody, playing Woody. Woody makes a mistake, and then it's starring Christy Black Barbie. We're all familiar with Christy Black Barbie. We were friends when I was very young. She was my first Barbie friend, in fact. So there's some plot issues with the show. So basically, it breaks down that right now, currently, Woody makes a mistake by saying something or doing something inappropriate, right, to Christy. So the setup is that there's a new toy box, and the old toys are getting culled through, and Christy Black Barbie wants to get in the new high-rise toy box, right? So currently, the arc of the story is that Woody meets Christy, Woody offends Christy, Christy asserts a boundary, Woody cries, Christy consoles Woody, Woody kind of like sad and then gets mad at Christy, Woody demands an apology, Christy apologizes, Christy does not move in. Okay, all right, okay. So that's where they were going, but they were having trouble with the storyline. So I wanted to do a deeper dive and kind of look at at Woody's storyline. Let's examine Woody's storyline together. Woody's journey. Woody interviews Christy to be a roommate, right? Woody's really excited, and he puts on, a dashiki. He's really getting super stoked to have a Black roommate, and he's like, I've got it. I'm going to make them feel super comfortable by putting on a dashiki. And you know what else is going to make Christy feel super comfortable? I'm going to keep quoting Beyonce lyrics at her. I bet this is going to bring it on. Now, see, Woody is squarely on well-meaning way. He really wants Christy to be the new roommate. He's never had a Black queer roomie before. Well, here's the challenge. Woody starts rounding culturally inappropriate alley. Christy's smiling at Woody, and Woody feels like things are going well, and he compliments her hair. All things are going well. Christy smiles, says thank you, and then, Woody reaches out to touch her hair. This hair is very expensive. So touching is touchy. Well, guess what? Woody lands in call-out corner because Christy is not having it. She smacks Woody's hands away and is like, get those dirty cowboy hands away from my new dude. Woody is embarrassed and ashamed, and then he just starts apologizing excessively, and then he's crying, and then feeling freeways. He lands squarely in Shame Falls. He's talking about his good intentions, how he's got a Black friend. He's going on and on. But he's so overcome with shame, he just stops. And then he gets mad. He gets mad at Christy for calling his hands dirty and for not taking a compliment. I mean, he's giving her a compliment. And then he declares, I'm not a racist. Accountability overpass. Woody is getting defensive. He's upset that he thinks Christy's a racist and that now he really needs to handle this. He really needs to handle this, and he plops himself over into Delusion Gardens, and Christy apologizes, running out of the house, and Woody celebrates, thinking, you know what I did? I just protected the toy box. I'm a hero. You think Christy moves in at the end of this narrative arc? No. Christy does not go to the toy box, but why? Okay, well, I was like, Shonda, girl, we got to look at Christy's journey. Christy Black Barbie let's see what her story has to tell us, because we got to get this plot worked out. Okay. So, Christy Black Barbie's journey. Well, Christy's at well-meaning way. I mean, she is excited and wants to be in the toy box, right? She's looking forward to making new friends. She hopes everyone likes her new hair because it was expendy and she wanted people to think, she was bringing her best game to the toy box. When they get to culturally inappropriate alley, Christy thinks Woody's dashiki is a little weird, but she likes Beyonce, and who is she to judge? And she figures it can't get any worse, right? She smiles when Woody compliments her hair, and then he reaches out to touch it. Christy is caught off guard and reacts defensively. She smacks his hands away and tells Woody to keep his dirty cowboy hands to himself. Maybe not her finest moment, but she was surprised. She was shook. She said, this dude is expensive and it needs to last until my next session with the stylist. Well, that is when Woody takes his trip down Feelings Freeway and Christy is feeling uncomfortable. Christy just wants to salvage the interview. She just wants to move up into that high-rise toy box. Well, Woody starts crying. And now, Christy is trapped. She's got to console him. I mean, she's like, if I can get him just to calm down, maybe I can get into the toy box. Shame falls. Christy's trying to explain, trying to pacify. She says, maybe next time just ask before you touch my hair, and I'll do better. I won't smack your hands away. I will do better. I can do better. Accountability overpass. No, sorry. Woody's not having it. Woody's mad, and he's demanding apology and attacking her, calling her racist. Well, Christy's getting to Delusion Gardens, and basically Christy's feeling kind of unsafe. She's quickly apologizes and runs out the door at top speed because she's pretty much certain Woody might be a racist. Here's the thing. You think Christy moved in? Not at the end of that story either. Christy doesn't follow up. She's certain she dodged a bullet. She'd basically rather stay in the Goodwill pile. Okay. So we can see how there are two different narratives going on in this film. And so it wasn't testing well. So we needed to kind of get back into that narrative. And so I'm like, Shonda, girl, let's talk. Let's talk about using a cultural allyship model. Remember this? Engaged learning plus action times responsibility minus shame. All right. I see you. I think like this is where we can go. But Shonda's like, what do you mean shame? And I'm like, Shonda, here's the thing. When you enter shame into a plot line, it stops the action, right? Shame is the focus on the self. I am bad. Woody went shame falls. I am bad. I am a mistake, right? Shame avoids change. Shame is like, I'm done. I hate you. You're a racist. You made me feel upset and I'm done. I'm not engaging anymore. But guilt. Guilt. We always hear guilt is bad, but guilt, actually, it is a motivator, right? Guilt is a focus on the behavior, right? You're not bad. You just did something bad, right? You're not a mistake. You just made a mistake, right? Guilt allows you to motivate to change. So I think we have to make sure that we are not engaging shame when we think we are engaging guilt, and that we're engaging guilt when we think we're engaging shame. We want to be in that place of like, I can do better. I can learn. I can change. And you know what I always say is that, there's no time to make the right decision, right? So if you mess up, if you have a hard time with something, don't worry about it. There is no time like the present to make the right decision. Learn, get yourself back up, and get back into the game, because values are forever. And so equity is a value. Cultural equity is a value. And sometimes we don't get it right. We're humans. We're imperfect. And if someone's wagging their finger at you, you just say, my job is to keep trying, right? My job is to use my guilt plus motivation to create responsibility, a sense of responsibility in myself, right? To make better. But first, before we can what does responsibility mean even? Let's talk about the 4 R's of responsibility. You want to recognize, right? If something happens, you want to recognize. You want to stop. You want to acknowledge, participating in the behavior, like just really understand what the behavior was. What was the cause of tension? Listen to your mind and heart, right? Something happens, take a minute. And if you have the ability and it feels tense, retract. Retract so you can get to reflection, right? So number 2, our responsibility is reflection. This is that part where you analyze a situation, where you understand where you went wrong. Examine your guilt. for information. The guilt is telling you something. It's telling you that you care about something. It's telling you about, could tell you what you need to work on in order to forgive yourself, right? Guilt is an incredible indicator if we just know how to use it. Think about how a person might feel if they had experienced that. Think about what does it reveal about you, right? What does it reveal about your background? Reflection is this amazing point where we get closer to our understanding ourselves and our intentions that we put into the world. The third R is to research, right? So once you've done your reflection and sort of gotten a real understanding of the situation through analysis, you can start to realign your actions and your intentions. Research is that next step where you actually get to turn that guilt into engaged learning, right? Let's really talk about it. Let's really dig in. What was the content of your potential gaffe? How can you be a proactive learner about situations where discomfort, racial tension came up? Can you investigate it? Can you find out why it's problematic? Can you Google it? And then last, repair. Okay, but don't run out the door and apologize to every person you see, right? Reparative action is not the same as finding that exact person and apologizing to them, right? Reparative action is about how you'll fix your mistake. And the mistake that we're making as a collective culture is the one of not engaging in equitable practices and processes. So repair is about how do you make a substantive shift in yourself and in potentially those around you, right? That's repair. We don't have to do a tit for tat. We are running our own race, right? We have found our own skin in the game for equity. And so repair is about that paying it forward. Sometimes you have the opportunity to go back and right wrongs, But I also think in the case of a system of equity and a process, well, why not look for the ways that we can pay our work forward to the future? So those are the 4 R's of responsibility. How do you think, okay, so I was with Shonda and I'm like, let's use this cultural allyship model. Like, let's just, for poops and giggles, let's see what Woody could have done differently using the 4 R's. All right, so we've got Woody's on well-meaning way. Makes a genuine mistake with a person of color by non-consentingly touching her hair. Woody gets called out pretty publicly and informed that what he did or said was inappropriate. Woody actually feels really bad, and embarrassed. Now, at this point, we realize Woody has recognized his mistake. He's on that feelings freeway and he's like, wait a minute, I made a big mistake and I think I offended someone without really meaning to. Well, so he slides down the feelings freeway, he recognizes his actions, and then Woody takes some time, right? Sitting down there in shame falls, takes some time and reflects on how might Christy be feeling? Okay, so he's thinking, wow, Christy might have been feeling like, oh, animal in a cage. Like, is she my pet? She's not my pet. Why did I do that? So now what he's thinking, now Woody's got the insight going, is reflecting, is finding where there are nuances and areas for Woody to learn. And Woody is like, give me my iPad. I'm about to do some Googling because I need to do some research. Woody's on Amazon. Woody's getting books. Woody even Googled, what does black hair feel like? Because basically that was what he wanted to know. Woody's feeling empowered because he's learning things. Oh, is that what it feels like? And is that why Christy might have felt that way? Finally, Woody's like, despite his best intentions, he didn't do something that was okay. He didn't do something that honored Christy. Woody takes responsibility, right? He reaches out to Christy to repair the damage. He wants to make a respectful apology. He wants Christy to know that he didn't mean it, and he's learned so much. But Christy's already gone to Delusional Gardens and is not really ready to receive Woody's response. So instead, Woody encourages all of the folks who are interviewing for the toy box to be more culturally sensitive and offers to share his experience so that no one else who comes to interview for the toy box will have that same experience that Christy did. Maybe one day Woody will meet Christy and he'll be able to give that apology. But what Woody's done is set a precedent so that it doesn't happen again. And boy, that is lasting. That is lasting. We got to turn our shame into self-discovery. We are wondrous creatures, full of so much internal landscape. The thing about cultural allyship is that it is emotional. There is nothing about relating to people that isn't. So when you are gearing up to engage in this work, you have to be prepared to manage your own emotions and discomfort. You want to take that time for reflection, to be strong in your values and your commitments. You don't want to put yourself at risk in your learning because you're too eager. Let's just be gentle. Understand your emotions. Be able to manage them. Because cultural allyship isn't about you, right? It's about everyone else that you're wanting to create a sense of welcome to. You know, culturally specific communities are often in active healing, right? In active states of transformation. It's not the responsibility of a culturally specific community to make you feel comfy, you know, or acknowledged or congratulated. It's nice. It's always so nice. But when you're doing cultural allyship work, you have to have your skin in the game. These are your values. These are your goals, so that you don't need the acknowledgement of a community in transition to give you that. So if you also just like little tips here, if you have a general cultural question, go ahead and Google it first. Let's go ahead and Google it. You know, I Google a lot of things. I'm not going to share my last Google search, but it is my first place, first step. It's also important to understand that access to culturally specific communities is a privilege, right? It is a benefit that not everyone receives. So respecting cultural space and boundaries is really important. So being able to go in with a open and observant mind so that you can really pay attention to what the room is telling you. Read the room. And then hang back and listen, right? Look for opportunities to support where you can, but confirm that your help is wanted before rushing in to give. So much about this work that we're doing is about relating to each other. Being able to even know, to be able to be present, those are the first steps. We don't have to run to action because witnessing is an action. All right, so some other tips around cultural allyship. There's no checkbox here. Cultural allyship is a forever process. You listen, you learn, you build relationships, you build trust, you do it consistently, and you allow yourself to be accountable to it, right? Also, cultural allyship is a responsibility. So you're going to mess up, right? But make it easy on yourself. Take responsibility for the mistakes and learn from them, right? Being called out is literally one of the most unpleasant things. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, okay? And allyship understands that sometimes you will, because it is not your natural place, it is not something where you have natural understanding, that you will mess up. And that someone may receive you outside of the way you were intending to be received. So you understand that. You move past it and you use your guilt to create reparative action within yourself, right? And finally, cultural allyship is not an identity, right? When someone says, I'm an ally, and we all make mistakes, because honey, I make it all the time, and everyone loves to tell me, allyship is not an identity. It's not. But you know what is an identity characteristic? Someone who works in allyship. And that is who I am. I am someone with a strong intention to work in allyship. So when you do get that title, when someone does recognize your efforts and calls you an ally, you can really hold on to that. It doesn't mean that you get to call yourself an ally in perpetuity forever, but boy, it gives you quite the charge when someone deems you as worthy enough to bestow that title on you. And then I think finally, action, right? To be an ally, to act in allyship, it requires actions, right? It must be paired with that engaged learning and then the behavior and actions. What are you going to do? What small thing can you do? Everyone really loves to go for these big things, but we are a nation of small things, individuals. We are tiny specks on a small planet in a great universe. So we have to think in a different way. We have to think about the micro actions that we can take towards a more equitable and beautiful community. So I want to share with you my best strategy for cultural allyship, and that is the only diet I love, a cultural allyship diet. And so a couple of years ago, I'll just be, vulnerable with you. A couple of years ago, I realized that I just didn't see enough, Black drag queens. I wasn't seeing them frequently. I needed more. I need to see a diversity of people. I wanted to feel like I was a part of a community. And so I decided I needed to go on a media diet. So what did that mean? It means that you make a special course of cultural content for yourself. So you go ahead and you pick a content, an area where you want to develop, right? Currently, and I think in the Black Lives Matter movement, it's a wonderful time to explore the history of slavery and segregation in our culture. Now, maybe you want to soft pedal with something else, but I'm just grabbing things out of the ether right now. But you pick some content and you'd want to define some rules. So I would say for 1 year, you might try a Black history media diet, which would say, okay, maybe it's going to be books. Maybe you're a reader and you're going to say for 1 year, I'm going to read only Black authors, right? Or for 1 year, I'm only going to watch films by Black directors, right? This can be done in so many different ways. It's really about you defining a small area for yourself where you can cultivate learning. So you'll make a few rules for yourself. So for me, on my media diet, we're trying to center POC identities and in film and television. So we go through and first I look for Black lead characters. You might exhaust your options rather soon, and then you look for POC, people of color, and then you might look for queer, and then if you can't find anything, you can always watch First Wives Clubs. It's all women. It's fabulous. But you make little rules that help you cultivate more specific information. So I've been on my media diet for 3 years, and what it has done for me, what can I say? I have experienced more confidence, and that confidence has led to more opportunities like this. I think just being able to see a lot of different Black and brown people in media and television, it told me, Black Benatar, you need to put your drag together with your equity message and get on camera. And I really believe that incremental amount of diet really helped build my self-esteem to this point. Okay, but here's the thing. I'm not going to just sit you on a diet and not give you the real. Because the real is this. On every diet, there are cheats. I cheat on the airplane. I love to cheat on the airplane. There are so many good trash movies on the airplane. I allow myself to watch them all. But these are not things to create challenges for you in your life to make things harder, but maybe to make them more fun, to provide substance where you don't need to. Like, I just think not where you don't need to provide substance where it's easy. That's what I wanted to say. It's ultimately about the small changes that help us build on them. We build on them one after another until we develop a full understanding. So that's my offering. My offering is, what kind of diet can you do? What can you implement in your creative practice, in your work? There's so many opportunities for this, whether it's a radio station, books, performing arts. There's so many incredible diets that you can put yourself on. And I hope to hear about all of your diets, and I hope to share with you as we enter into our potion making, our week of potion making. I'd like to offer that we consider the different diets and tidbits that we can bring into creating our cultural equity consciousness.
Lovers and gems, thank you so much, Black Benatar. That was amazing. Made the adjustment beautifully with all of our technical issues. Yay, kisses and love. As I said before, any queen who is willing to get made up that put on face at this time of the morning is a queen of my hearts.
For you.
Mwah. We love you. We love you. Thank you so much.
For Iowa.
Yes, for Iowa, for Iowa's creative force. So thank you so much for giving us those delicious ingredients to begin our process and begin our journey of potion making. So we're going to do potion making sessions all week at lunchtime from noon to 1, assuming technology can work for us. And everyone's going to be adding their own ingredients from your stories so that you can make sensory experiences to unleash the powers within you and the world around you. You have the medicine that we need right now to heal, restore, and transform toward more justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And you, I mean audience, right? You, creative force. We can transform our practices, our communities, our institutions, our society. So we're going to sort through some technical issues, figure our stuff out. And if you'd like to join our live studio audience in Zoom, we put a link into the events page. There's a little letter posted on the Iowa Arts Council that you can be able to read, fill out a Google form. And otherwise, you can join us in the live streaming on Facebook. And we will be editing this video